Out of my sight! I can do this. Now you've angered me. That's quite enough. As it must be.
Hi there, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mangus and today I bring you yet another Patreon-sponsored Spotlight. Today's gal has been frequently requested, and thanks to one of my silver tier Patreons, Gregster, this Spotlight is now a reality. So join me today as we take a look at the red-haired, long-legged Pegasus Knight prodigy, Cordelia.
My turn!
Cordelia is a Pegasus Knight hailing from Elise. She is the mother of Severa and a member of the Royal Pegasus Knight Guard, pledged to protect Queen Emerin and the capital of Illisdal. Growing up, Cordelia was revered as a prodigy and a genius, having a natural talent unmatched by any of the other recruits. She quickly mastered anything she set her mind to and rapidly rose through the ranks to become a fully fledged Pegasus Knight, eventually entering the Elysian Royal Guard under Commander Fila. However, due to her raw talent, she was also teased and mocked quite a lot. Her officers gave her the nickname Little Lady Genius, something they said in a very sarcastic way, and this bothered Cordelia quite a lot, as it made her feel like an outsider even within her own order. When tensions between Elise and Plagia started escalating, with King Gangrel growing ever more confident by the day, war between the two nations seemed inevitable. Emerin was escorted away from the capital for her own safety, with Fila, Crom, and the rest of the shepherds serving as her bodyguard. Cordelia and the rest of the Royal Pegasus Knights were stationed at the capital to protect it from attack. However, while Emerin was on her way to a hidden palace in the mountains, the capital came under sudden attack by Plagian forces, who decimated the soldier stationed there. The Royal Pegasus Guards decided to hold off the Plagian invaders for as long as they could, but ordered Cordelia to go inform Emerin and the other shepherds of the attack. They chose Cordelia because she was the youngest and brightest among them, and saw her as having the most potential in the future. Thus, they effectively sacrificed their own lives for her sake. Cordelia flew as quickly as she could to catch up with Crom and the rest of the shepherds, but before she could arrive, a Plagian commander named Vasto, along with his platoon of Wyvern Knights, had already started ambushing Emerin's bodyguard, as a traitorous hierarch had already given their location away to Plagia in return for the promise of safety and gold. As a reward for his treachery, however, the hierarch was split in half by Vasto's axe. Cordelia caught up with Crom and his soldiers while they were still fending off the Plagian ambush, and helped Crom rout Vasto's squad. After the fighting was over, Cordelia informed Emerin of what had transpired over at the capital, and upon hearing this, Emerin decided that she should head back to parley with Gangrel for the good of her people. Fila, however, made a decision for Cordelia to remain behind with Crom and the rest of the shepherds, something Cordelia was not happy with, but reluctantly accepted nevertheless.
I'll keep you safe.
Cordelia would accompany Crom and the rest of the shepherds throughout the events of Awakening. Even after her commander Fila died during the war with Plagia, she kept her oath and remained with Crom and his army. After the events of Awakening, Cordelia went on to continue serving as a Royal Pegasus Guard and became a figurehead for the Elysian warriors.
All too easy.
Cordelia is a young slender woman somewhere in her late teens. She has long red hair that goes down to her thighs and dark red eyes. She wears a white breastplate with shoulder pads and gauntlets. She is dressed in a white and red tunic and wears high red boots with stockings held up with garters. She has a very slim, elegant build with long legs and a small waistline, and she is considered very attractive by most men in Crom's army. In the Somber Scramble DLC, we learn a rather insignificant but still fascinating fact about Cordelia's appearance, that apparently her breastplate is a bit of a scam, and that Cordelia is in fact quite flat-chested, something she is extremely embarrassed about and tries her best to keep hidden. This tells us that Cordelia is willing to cover up the truth in order to give people the impression that she is perfect, even when it comes to her own body. This is also one of the few things that makes Severa feel more confident, as she learns in the Hot Spring Scramble DLC that she is more busty than her mother.
That's what you get!
From a very young age, Cordelia was constantly praised as a genius and a prodigy. In most cases, this would turn people self-centered and arrogant, but Cordelia seems to keep rather level-headed despite the constant praise she received growing up. While we often see her working hard to improve herself, she seldom berates others or seems to think herself worth more than those around her. In fact, we learn that Cordelia's self-esteem isn't the greatest, and that she actually doesn't think very highly of herself. She also hates it when people call her a genius, as this reminds her of how she was teased by her superiors when they mockingly called her Little Miss Genius while she was still a recruit. Cordelia is a perfectionist in every sense of the word, and many consider Tsubaki in Fates to be very inspired by her, especially considering he becomes the father of Kaeldori, her clone. Cordelia hates the term average and do not want to be associated with it, wanting to excel at everything she does, and while she seldom is directly rude to others, this attitude is probably what caused the officers and her fellow Pegasus Knights to look down on her with a bit of contempt. Cordelia is shown to have some flaws though, like in her support conversation with Virion, as she is shown to have a rather short temper, especially when she doesn't master something. Cordelia takes on a bit of a mentor role with Sumia, and through their relationship we learn that Cordelia hates superstition, feeling that each person is responsible for creating their own fates. Although Sumia later convinces Cordelia that there is some basis in superstition if it can make people perform better on the battlefield. This shows that Cordelia has a very pragmatic outlook on life, and that she prefers things to be simple and clear. In many of Cordelia's support conversations, we see her conversation partner approaching her as she is occupied with something, whether it be forging a javelin, knitting a scarf, or playing an instrument. She usually gets praised for her abilities, but brushes it off as she doesn't like being admired. In fact, most of Cordelia's supports are very centered around her and her own abilities. Cordelia's relationship with her daughter is a bit complicated, and due to her constantly overshadowing Severa with her feats of greatness, it has caused a bit of tension between the two. Whether or not the Cordelia of the future is similar to the Cordelia we know in Awakening is a difficult question to answer, but it does seem like she isn't the greatest when it comes to showing her love for her own daughter, acting a bit weird, such as not straight up admitting she loves her own daughter more than Crom, though she certainly admits it in their support conversation. Cordelia also has a rather strong obsession with Crom, but keeps her feelings hidden as she feels they would only burden him during the war. This is well represented by the fact that she cannot even support with Crom in the game. Because she rarely interacts with him closely in person, she has instead taken to almost worshipping him as a perfect being. In most of her love supports, Crom is the subject of many conversations, until Cordelia eventually realizes she can never have him, and falls in love with her support partner instead.
Stay with me.
Cordelia is the second Pegasus Knight to join your party, and she first shows up in Chapter 7. Compared to your other Pegasus Knights, Sumia, she has superior strength and defense, but less magic, skill, luck, and resistance. In fact, most of Cordelia's growths are very balanced, befitting of her gimmick at being good at everything. Despite joining 4 chapters later than Sumia, Cordelia is 6 levels higher and has more well-rounded stats, and is in some cases considered to be the better of the two, although some people would prefer Sumia and her superior availability. Being a Pegasus Knight, Cordelia has great mobility, and thanks to Awakening's flexible pair-up system, it's easy to use her to transport your other units across great distances. Even if you don't use her directly for fighting, her flying utility will still be a valuable asset to your team. Cordelia's base speed is also high enough to double most enemies, aside from maybe some Myrmidons and Mercenaries on higher difficulties, and her speed growth will usually ensure it stays that way. Her high strength growth also prevents Cordelia from getting strength screwed, which is quite nice for a Pegasus Knight. Keeping Cordelia as a Falcon Knight is usually considered a solid choice, though her reclassing option to Mercenary allows her to pick up some useful skills, such as Armstrift, which combined with her solid luck can allow her to wield expensive weaponry such as Silver Lances. While she generally doesn't have enough magic to be considered a good dark flyer, obtaining the ever-powerful Gale Force skill is still recommended, as it is one of the most valuable skills in Awakening. Cordelia can also serve as a useful Rally Bot, as her class kit allows her to pick up Rally Skill, Rally Speed, and Rally Movement, which adds a lot to her supporting utility, though it certainly doesn't make her the greatest rally bot available in Awakening. Once you obtain the S-rank support with Cordelia and any other melee unit in Crom's army, aside from Crom himself as they can't support, Cordelia will become the mother of Severa, a mercenary. Any father with good physical stats will do nicely if you plan on keeping Severa a mercenary, and from her mother's side, you should definitely pass down the Gale Force skill. At the end of the day, there isn't much to say about Cordelia as a unit. She is a very simple but effective flyer. She has well-rounded stats across the board and few weak spots aside from the classic Pegasus vulnerability to bows. Whether or not you use her as a fairy bot or as an offensive fighter, she will be a great asset to your team nevertheless, and is easily one of the most viable flyers in Awakening. Take good care of this gorgeous redhead, and Little Miss Genius will be sure not to let you down. Thank you for watching this Fire Emblem character spotlight. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and a comment, it really helps out the channel a lot. I would like to thank my Patreon supporter Gregster, who requested this spotlight alongside this drawing of Cordelia as his silver tier reward. By supporting me on Patreon, you too can request a spotlight and a drawing. I would also like to thank my other Patreon supporters as well. Anyone of bronze tier or higher will automatically be listed at the end of my spotlights and certain other videos. I am very grateful for your continued support. Thank you so much. The beautiful art and design you see created in this video was made by my designer Mina Tangerina, and my script editors Nasiro and Sonagi helped me fine-tune the script for this spotlight. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Mangs, and I'll see you again soon. Goodbye!